Thanks, Kansas City, for making us #1. This is KMBC 9 News at 10.
It's a miracle anyone survived, but apparently a Kansas Citian did. Good evening, everyone. It's the world's worst plane crash this year.
And as we first told you at 5 o'clock, 3 Kansas Citians were apparently on board an American Airlines jet that slammed into a Colombian mountainside. 164 people were on board the flight from Miami to Cali when the Boeing 757 jet disappeared from radar screens 40 miles from its destination. The latest tonight is that there are 6 known survivors. As Chris Ketz reports tonight, it is a tragedy touching many people right here in Kansas City.
For Alberto Piraquive and family, all they can do is hope and pray and believe their friends somehow survived this crash.
I don't know why. I think I kind of have the hunch that they are alive.
He's talking about the Ramirez family of Kansas City North. Benjamin, his wife Mercedes, and their daughter, also named Mercedes. Relatives in Colombia are telling family friends in Kansas City all 3 were on board, and that daughter Mercedes is alive. News that's coming from a second Ramirez daughter, Sylvia.
The uncle called Sylvia, which is the survivor around here, and told her that she was alive and well. She were to survive, and they were operating on a leg or something like that.
But there is no word yet on mom or dad, a couple that's well-known, well-liked, and well-respected throughout Kansas City's Colombian and Cuban communities. For now, all he and other friends in Kansas City can do is stay close to the phone and keep hope alive that rescuers will find more survivors, including their friends, the Ramirezes. On the city's east side, Chris Ketz, KMBC 9 News.
Members of the Ramirez family were heading to Colombia to be with family over the holidays. Friends in Kansas City are now telling us that the second daughter, Sylvia, is still at home in southeastern Kansas tonight. She is waiting for word on her parents. We'll have the latest on this story tomorrow morning on First News beginning at 5:30. They don't know yet if this was a deliberate bombing, but investigators are checking that possibility. It comes on the 7th anniversary of the Pan Am bombing over Lockerbie, Scotland. Relatives and friends of the victims of the Pan Am flight came to Arlington National Cemetery today for a memorial. But imagine their shock when they found the cemetery was closed because of the budget standoff. Guards turned away the public, but at the last minute, with TV cameras rolling, they escorted the family members briefly to the Lockerbie Memorial statue. Negotiators met for 4 hours today. They'll be at it again tomorrow, trying to get the government reopened.
Millions of veterans are already feeling the effects of the budget impasse because Congress failed to act quickly enough. Their benefit checks were not mailed today. Some vets say that without their monthly checks, they could lose their houses. And if the lack of funding continues tomorrow, families who usually get welfare checks will find empty mailboxes instead. Meantime, tempers are growing short among those workers affected by the shutdown. Many workers blame House Speaker Newt Gingrich and his Republican majority for the shutdown that's forced them on furlough. 100 of them rallied in front of the federal building downtown today. They claim the Republicans have been talking about shutting down federal offices for months when they should have been trying to work out a budget.
They should have done it a long time ago. It's detrimental to all of us now. That's why we're all out here screaming about it. If we could strike, I feel we would, honestly.
Glenn says she was ordered back to work because all leave and vacation were canceled, even though she says she has pneumonia.
A backyard feud between dogs and geese escalated into a battle between neighbors this week in Baser. And when the dust settled, several geese were dead, 1 dog was shot, and another nearly beaten to death. And now, as Jim Flink reports, all the parties involved are sorry it ever started, and each has lost something dear.
Kelly went out and looked, and she said it's bloody, and Kyle, he brought the dog in, and I looked it over, and you could see where it had been shot.
Ed McIntosh came home last night to his dog Span shot, another dog Spick missing. Kids Kelly and Kyle went looking and found Spick buried alive.
Kelly was walking right over there by the fence by that box. She heard another yelp. She looked down, the dog was right there.
You saw the nose.
His neighbor says the dogs had killed his geese. Ed disagreed, but said he'd pay.
I think they actually were chewing one that was already dead, but, I didn't want to argue with him because they shouldn't have been there.
The owner of these geese say he's lost 14 out of 20 this week alone, and he says that coincides with the arrival of the dogs next door.
The neighbor didn't want to appear on camera. He admits to shooting the dogs, thought one had died, but he says he was frustrated at losing his pets.
Every one of those geese have a personality of his own, just like people. They truly do.
Some were grand champions. All had names: Thor, Fantasia, Lady. One was his favorite.
I could tell him, give me a kiss, and he'd nibble at my cheek like he was kissing me. He'd follow me. And now? He's gone.
Ed McIntosh understands his neighbor's actions, but doesn't agree with them, and he's upset his kids had to witness it all.
They didn't need to see a dog buried alive in the dirt. That was the part that upset me the most.
It's a feud all wish had never started. Each hopes won't happen again. In Basel, Jim Flink, KMBC 9 News.
The McIntoshes say they won't press the issue any further, and the owner of the geese says he is sorry. The dog that was beaten is still recovering.
It had become an eyesore for neighbors and an endless line of curious passing by, so the city took action, and tonight the Prairie Village home that was the scene of a deadly fire 2 months ago is torn down. Demolition crews were at work early in the morning. 2 young children died in that fire. Their mother, Deborah Green, is charged with murder. We have a story of true Christmas spirit to tell you about tonight. This week we told you about a family burned out of their home, 2 cars lost. Tonight, a total stranger stepped forward to give Alan Ridout the title and keys to a used car. The donor, Terry Riddick, says that he didn't need the car, and after seeing the story on our news this week, he wanted to help the Ridouts. Tonight, they met for the first time.
Christmas is going to be very special. I won't have everything I had, but it's going to be special. Thanks to people like this gentleman and other people that's called us and contacted us and tried to help us.
This is an opportunity for me to demonstrate my belief, and I know that at some point in time, everyone's going to have an opportunity to do something like this for someone else.
Earlier today, the Ridouts received a van from a Johnson County family. They asked to remain anonymous. And speaking of fires, there's apparently been a big one tonight at a Kansas landmark. The John Brown cabin at Osawatomie has been on fire for the last hour or so. It's a museum for the famous Kansas abolitionist. No word yet on how much damage has been done.
Another court appearance today for Michael Ramsey. He is the teenager accused of armed robbery only a few months after he received a national award for bravery. Today, Ramsey was arraigned on the charges, and tonight he is still in jail on $65,000 bond. No trial date is set. Kansas City, Kansas is considering whether it should continue sponsoring tough man fights after an emotional appeal by a young contestant's mother. 23-year-old Eric Crow died from head injuries after this fight 2 weeks ago. He was a championship wrestler in good physical condition, but he wasn't a trained boxer. Today, Crow's mother told the KCK Athletic Commission there should have been a qualified ringside doctor to monitor the contestant's health.
There was a chiropractor who knows nothing at all about head injuries. Eric did not need a chiropractic adjustment. He needed someone to tell him if he was okay to fight.
The Athletic Commission tabled the tough man question until all the investigations are completed.
School board member Ed Newsom says the board needs to find cheaper lawyers. Today, he blasted the administration for, in his words, routinely paying excessive fees. For example, Newsom says last month the board approved paying more than $132,000 in lawyers' bills without question.
But the real issue is, can we continue to afford to pay these kinds of legal costs in light of the district's financial condition?
Should we always examine if we're getting our money's worth? Sure. As so far, if you look at what's been derived from the litigation and the desegregation case, all of the kids of Kansas City have benefited from that program.
Newsom said